Hello and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday. This is a weekly show which covers all the news from Star Citizen from the week just past. I am your host Mac, so let's get on with it. This week the roadmap gets the addition of 3.7 and 3.8. ATV delves into the new AI flight behaviours and ship sounds, plus Erin stops by to answer some important questions. So just a very quick roadmap update before we begin. The 3.7 and 3.8 update has been added to the roadmap. Also 3.6 has been heavily altered. I have got videos ready to go highlighting all the changes and the new additions coming in 2019. They will be coming out throughout next week, so make sure you're subscribed here on YouTube so you don't miss out. Also, follow me over on twitch.tv/supermacbrothers where we will take a look together at what's new and discuss what we're excited for, breaking everything down and delving further into the roadmap. The link below is to my channel should you want to hang out with us. 2019 is looking to be a great year for us citizens, and I personally am very excited. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on the roadmap in the comments below, guys. Anyway, with that said, let's get on with this week's news. So we had another good Around the Verse this week. Kicked off with looking at the flight model and AI. Over the last few months, the ship AI has been focused on porting all the existing behaviours for ships into the IFCS 2.0, so the AI can use the new flight model that's coming along. They want to give AI gunships an update too. Basically, ships that are heavier than the average fighter. They want them to have behaviours that are realistic and different due to the turrets that they have available. New behaviours will include the ship circling a target at roughly 400 meters to bring the maximum number of turrets to bear on a target, but also other behaviours including a frontal attack using their main forward guns and missiles. The player's importance is to get in the ship's blind spot and hide from the gunship's firing arcs. However, against a fighter, the importance is to stay onto the target's tail to avoid its frontal weaponry. They're focused on making fighting against fighters more fun, and after an attack run, trying to get on the tail of and chase them down is going to be a challenge. And this will also become harder the longer you're on the tail, but also if you actually manage to hit them, then the AI will become more aggressive at trying to shake you off, making it more fun, challenging and engaging. So far it sounds good. Obviously, we don't have it in our hands, so I will wait and see what it's like before really getting into it. But I'm excited to give it a go and see if it's in a state that I want to start learning. Anyway, from there, we heard about the ship audio, which is getting reworked alongside the flight model. The new system will see positional detail and accuracy in where the sounds are on the ship, plus bring in the audio vibration component and environmental feedback component to give the player more feedback on what their ship is doing and the state it's in. We heard some new Gladius sounds. They've placed emitters around the ship which properly create the sound of additional systems that would produce sound when the ship is moving. All the sounds are modulated by different perimeters depending on what the IFCS is doing. This creates a much more dynamic and believable soundscape. Headphone users, they say, will hear a massive increase in positional believability and detail. Now they can also modulate the sound of ships on longer journeys to represent the sound of the ships settling into a certain cruise speed. They now have sounds on maneuvering thrusters and retro thrusters. They've added thrust and afterburner one-shot sounds rather than loops, which help sell the power and the weight of the ship during large accelerations and deaccelerations. Entering atmosphere, you can hear the vibration audio and environmental feedback components working. Vibration audio calculates the physical force acting on a ship at the point they've placed it. These will also react to weapons fire, impacts, collisions, thruster forces, explosions and so forth, but also atmospheric entry and flight, which is increased as the drag increases, triggering more vibrational sounds, getting more intense as the atmosphere slows people down, and then finally settling as you reach a stable speed. They did say it only takes about literally a minute for the initial audio setup of a ship, which is extremely fast, and the time that they've saved there is then put into detailed work. Now it does, I'm really looking forward to the sound for the new ships and the new flight model because it does add so much more to the immersion. I don't think it's going to be every ship. I think there's going to be select ships, hopefully the majority with the new sound, and then they'll add it as they go on. But this is something I'm very excited for. It sounds amazing, and it's going to make flight even more immersive and fun. Anyway, to finish off with, they looked into animations. 2019 is focused on polishing the current animations and making them a AAA quality feel competitive with other AAA games. They're cleaning up and getting the pickups looking smooth and less glitchy. They want to ensure the player can freely move throughout the level, vaulting and mantling and climbing and so forth. The new vaulting animations don't warp the player back anymore. They are smoother and more accurate. They're also working on getting the ship entry and exit smoother as well. And the final thing they are working on are emotes, which are the American Sign Language to help those who are hearing impaired, meaning that those who can't hear very well, using VoIP and so forth, can have a series of emotes to help them communicate as they would in real life. And actually, I really, really like this, and I would love to learn the emotes that they have, so that if we do have anyone in the org, or you run into someone who can't hear very well, can sign to you, and you can sign back and understand what they're saying. To finish off with, they say they're adding facial animations for emotes as well, but that was it for ATV. Do let me know your thoughts, guys. Really excited for this flight model and the audio. Can't wait for 3.5. So on this week's Reverse the Verse, it kicked off with a little sit down with Erin Roberts, who is Chris Roberts' brother, and just sort of spoke about the production of Star Citizen, its direction, Squadron 42, the roadmap, and what they want from 2019. Now, Erin started by saying that unlike a lot of other game studios, they don't just march on in one direction. They look at our feedback, they look at what is fun, what's working, and then reassess and be quite agile with what they're doing. All this means is that we can get a more enjoyable experience, and as things change, they can adapt to them. Now, they're talking about Squadron 42, and a lot of the PU resources do get reassigned to work on Squadron 42, obviously due to priorities. But the beauty is that as a feature in Squadron 42 becomes finished, they can come across to the PU, as we have seen on the roadmap recently. They are always heavily hiring staff, and I think there are still about 100 job vacancies going, but they only want to hire people of a real high quality level that they want to be continued through Star Citizen. So you see the level of quality Star Citizen provides, they want the staff to be around the level of that. Right now, they say big features that are being worked on are things like the persistence and the economy. One of the big questions that Jared did ask is, why is Star Citizen taking so long? This has been a question that has been asked by pretty much everyone in the past. Now, they say that the scale at the very beginning was different to what it is now. The amount of support and backing grew so much that the scope of the game had to reflect this. Every penny they receive is being used to create the game, but with the scope changing, it means that they need to create the tools and the tech to allow for this sort of game to be able to be created. Without it, the game wouldn't be possible. Now that most of that core tech is done, the content for the game can come out much quicker and will continue to do so each quarter. That said, they are still working on a lot more core tech that hopefully won't slow up too much production. Now that we've got a more playable game, it is fun, but again, it's stuff that is necessary for the game to work in its final state. Now, in terms of Squadron 42 and generally how is it going, he says they meet twice a week to just discuss the progress and see what needs to be done. They are getting the AI issues worked out, which is very important, obviously, and this is also going to be reflected in the PU as well, which is excellent news. But all levels were supposed to be in grey box, they said a while ago. How come many are not anymore? Basically, they went back and redesigned them. They've got better tech, they have better ideas, and they want them to feel right. And he did specify and stress that Squadron 42 is not coming out until it is the perfect game. And that has always been Chris's vision. They want to make the perfect game. They're not going to scrimp in any area. Now, in terms of 2019, what's coming is new locations. They're spending time on creating more detail on the current planets. They've said they've got a tunnel system coming along. I assume that is referring to the caves that we spoke about last week. Also, more space locations and stations. The new flight model is very exciting. It feels a lot faster and a lot quicker, but also it brings big performance gains as well. Female characters, the face tech is getting improved AI. There is so much coming in 2019. The roadmap, Erin says, reflects what they can achieve with what tech and resources they have now. So he says he's pretty damn sure that they can achieve it all. So they hope they will be able to actually add things to the roadmap instead of taking them away this year. He says they would rather surprise people than disappoint them. Also, just because something isn't on the roadmap doesn't mean it isn't getting worked on. They do want to hold some stuff back to surprise people, but also sometimes they just can't guarantee some things are going to make it, so they want to hold them back just in case. But the Squadron 42 roadmap, the PU roadmap, don't align exactly because it's different development for single player and multiplayer. Single player is very much easier to get things working. Also, Squadron 42 is military driven, so some of the tech shouldn't really come across to civilians in the persistent universe straight away. That might come later on down the line. He mentioned about Eva Cotti test flight and it being a big blessing on the project. They do have a large QA department in-house, but it's not big enough. The Eva Cotti and the PTU is a massive help. We can get the game feeling stable as soon as it hits the crowds, and the scale sort of shows what's wrong and they can adjust it as such. Also, the Eva Cotti testers, he said, are getting the 3.5 flight model weeks earlier to test and give feedback. So by the time the masses get it, it should have a large amount of work done to it to get it right, which I am very excited for. It'd be nice to know when that is coming. Now, to finish up with, Erin did speak further on server meshing. Basically, it brings the ability to put everyone into one server, and they can dynamically have servers control, say, a single room up to a full system. Once optimized, a server can focus on where the players are. For example, he says you could have maybe 100 players going to a bar. One server can handle that bar completely. And then if someone decides to leave the bar, then they will be transferred to another server controlling, say, the alleyway outside. And because each of these servers talk to each other, the servers can dynamically start up and turn off as people move around the systems. They have started on it now. It's just the sort of planning phase. He can't really say when it will be ready, but once they have the first iteration, we will be seeing servers talking to each other, not dynamically, but basically each server will look after a set place of space, and then they can start to increase the player count. The first test will have just servers passing players between themselves as they go through zones, and at that point there, you're talking around the hundreds of players. But after that, then they will create the dynamic side of it, and that should scale up to have everyone on one server. We're at the stage now where they're doing the last assessment before they start implementing the servers talking to each other. So they're working on that this year. Highly doubt it'll come this year, but I'm looking forward to hearing more on that. And I hope that made sense. It is quite a technical thing, and my brain does ache. Anyway, that was the interview with Erin. After that, they had a quick sort of lore team RTV, a traditional RTV. First question is, are there any natural disasters in Star Citizen lore, and are they planned to be in-game as a dynamic event? Now, they do want there to be places that are dangerous to travel to, and natural phenomena will be part of this. Also, they have spoken about potential shaders for players and NPCs to show that they may have an illness or something wrong with them. Not confirmed, but it's, they've been speaking about it. They would love an ongoing issue like terraforming issues or droughts, having to bring relief and aid to places. But the lore does have lots of disasters, like recently a collapsing jump point which trapped many civilians in a system. Also the Mars terraforming disaster which happened early on in the lore. So there are lots of disasters and lots of things will be placed in-game, and I do love the idea of having illnesses, pandemics, epidemics, those sort of things. It would be very exciting. Next question, are the Vandal the only major threat in the game? Now, he actually says humans are probably the biggest threat in the game. The danger of people is where the trouble is. Like you see in Squadron 42, the little vertical slice we had, it was the OMC that was the problem. A pirate group, not the Vandal. The Vandal are a massive threat, but so are many smaller system-to-system factions who are threats to particular local areas. There's not likely to be another huge alien threat anytime soon, if at all, because the Vandal kind of cover that area, but they never say never, Anyway, next question. How much does Squadron 42 affect the PU? Now, they say things like the coil do exist in the Odin system, so that will be there in the PU. The Vega 2 attack will be represented. Maybe you see them rebuilding, maybe you see memorials. Next question. Have they considered any other types of currency? Now, they have spoken about it, but currently they're trying to build a human economy. This would require building a completely new economy, but the Zhaan and the Banu do have their own currency, but there's a lot to be worked out before anything like that will come along. But it does kind of make sense, so we will see later on. What are the updates to the Galactopedia? How's it coming on? They're building up the entries and getting all the resources allocated. They'll just keep chipping away at that until it's complete, or at least until they get to a point where they can release it, because I would love to have the Galactopedia and be able to learn more. Final question is, what's the lore team's thoughts on the Jumptown actions? Now, they think it's awesome. Using the systems that CIG build for players to build their own stories is really cool. It also deepens the Widow connection to the game. Rather than it just being a commodity, we can see the trouble it's already causing, like real-life drugs do. So it's quite interesting to see it approached from that side. Anyway, that was it for RTV, guys. Some really good stuff from Erin. Not new stuff, mostly stuff that we already know and understand, but it's good to hear his thoughts on it, and the confidence he has in getting everything on the current roadmap out is, you know, it's good to hear, but we'll wait and see if that is actually achieved. Anyway, let me know your thoughts, guys. Let's move on. Also this week, there was a new portfolio post looking at the ship manufacturer Esperia. And finally, the January monthly report is available, which I shall break down into a separate video coming later this week. This video is brought to you by Frontier Pilot Simulator. This is a story-driven sci-fi economy, exploration and cargo flight simulator. Players will have to manage profits, unpredictable weather conditions, realistic controls, navigation and the environment. There's thousands of upgrades and customizations for your ship. The game is in Steam Early Access and continues to evolve with new updates like alien hunting, dialogue panels, optimizations, a new ship, new HUD, new graphics. It also has Steam Workshop integration, and you can try Frontier Pilot Simulator using the link below with a 30% discount. So that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a video. Hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and share the video with all your friends. If you like what I do and want to help me make it better, follow the link below to my Patreon page to learn more.